Hi again. Welcome on our island where nothing is added anymore, but where things are changing. We emit a lot of CO2, which is causing climate heating as a side effect of our consumption of resources. And the effects are huge. We have a huge problem, we have a huge task to stay below 1.5 or 2 degrees, and there's a huge impact on our resource use and our lifestyle to come. And in fact, we have a global emergency, as James Hansen and other scientists already proved in scientific papers. This is how we got there. This is the parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere, which was 266, 150 years ago. We added by oil and gas, etc. And there was some absorbed by the ocean, and which resulted in now today 415 parts per million in the air, and increasing. So that's not a good sign. We have to limit that in order to reduce climate heating effects here on Earth, with all effects on us, on ourselves and the species. The CO2 budget is maximized. That is, this is what can be maximum emitted since the Industrial Revolution to the atmosphere, and a lot of that has already been emitted in the past 150 years, methanes and CO2, etc. And this is what is remaining to have a chance to stay below 2 degrees of climate heating. And this was the calculation during the Paris Climate Conference in 2015. Since then, new calculations have shown that it's a little bit more, but still not much. This is a live ticker on the internet that shows this is our remaining budget for 1.5 degrees, and this is what we are consuming. And so there's 7 years, 6 months, 7 days left before this budget is exhausted and our chance to stay below 1.5 degrees is lost. And that's 7 years. That's not very far away. What does this mean for instance, the Netherlands? This is the global budget for 1.5 degrees and 2 degrees, but then if we divide that by fair share, population density in the Netherlands, then the Netherlands budget is 0.75 gigatons CO2 emissions and 2.5 gigatons for the 2 degree scenario. Now, suppose we emit per year 0.17 gigatons per year, as we do in the Netherlands, then we run out of a budget for 1.5 degree in the Netherlands in 4.5 years. That's 2024. And for the 2 degrees in 14.5 years, that's 2034. So, we aim at 2050, but that is probably far too late, because we will have already run out of our budget. If we even specify this budget a little bit more, then we can see that for the built environment, which is responsible for 40% of all emissions, it's 0.3 and 1, and if we look at the housing sector, it's 0.15 and 0.5 gigatons CO2 equivalents maximum to be emitted. Now, suppose we retrofit houses to a zero energy house, with a complete makeover, new facades, new roofs, etc., etc. Then an average retrofit will require about 3.4 gigajoule per square meter. And if we add that up for 7.2 million houses in the Netherlands, then that requires 0.183 gigatons of CO2 to retrofit all the houses in the Netherlands with this complete makeover, new facades, new installations, heating systems, etc. That's already more than we have in the 1.5 degree scenario. So it won't work this way. This is already too much for the budget that is remaining. Now there's a few conclusions we can draw from that. One, we have to find ways to retrofit houses with far lower impacts, material impacts, embodied energy. So not complete makeovers. And secondly, the whole remaining budget for the 1.5 degree scenario or the 2 degree scenario is required to retrofit our houses. That means that any new building that will be added to the housing stock has to be zero CO2 emissions, a net zero emissions building. Otherwise, it will put a burden on the existing budget to retrofit the houses. It make much more difficult to retrofit the existing houses. Any new building that is not zero emissions. These are very far-reaching conclusions in how we have to adapt with the side effect of our consumption, CO2 emissions. Thank you very much.